So last week I said I should have reviewed Sweetener. Well, the truth is that last week I should have reviewed Sweetener a week ago. So I should have recorded Sweetener like 2 weeks ago. But hey, there's nothing wrong with being fashionably late. Hello and welcome back to the Music Review Emporium. My name is Ethan and I am the only cure for SoundCloud rappers. The trick is to be confident so people believe you when you make these assertions. And when you use words like assertions and not sure they're real. Today we are talking about Sweetener. And Lexy's going to put Sweetener right here. And also here. And also there. Lexy, put Sweetener. It's all over the screen. Just a bunch of Sweeteners. I'm going to be sleeping on the couch tonight. Sweetener is Ariana Grande's fourth studio album, released through Republic Records on August 17th of this year. This is the album that was meant to bring a more mature feeling to her music, as well as her starting to be able to sing songs that relate more towards her life. Ariana Grande herself said the name Sweetener, the name that this album is allusion to sweetening a bad situation or sweetening up someone else's life. She went on to say to Time magazine, you know, if you're in these bad situations, why not try to take and make something beautiful? Oh my gosh, my cat. Hold on. Look, this is the troublemaker. Look how she's noisy. She's so noisy. She's bad. She's a bad kitty. Let's try recording with the door open. This is the first album I'm going into with a neutral to negative opinion on. Not that I find Ariana Grande's music to be bad, but I just find myself to be a little more critical of pop music as a whole, which is really... you know, it's a bias I'm aware of going into this. So is Sweetener strong enough to overcome those biases? I don't know. Let's find out. Here's how reviews work on my channel if you are... Okay, hold on, I gotta kick her out. So here's how reviews work on my channel if you're new here. I have listened to this album so you don't have to, and I have given every track a score. The final score of this album will be the average of all the scores put together. Now keep in mind this is my opinion, so please don't be mad at me if I praise 303 and then trash Beyonce. So without further ado, let's talk about Sweetener. The first track on Sweetener is Raindrops, which is just this less than a minute song, or about a minute song, which it's really just a focus on her vocals. But like I said in a past video, I'm not a fan of intros, remixes, or instrumentals, and this is an intro, and I don't like it. It gives us a taste of what this album is going to sound like. It gives us a taste of her vocals before the album starts. So this gets about a 6 out of 10. Next is Blazed, which features Pharrell Williams. Since he's the one who produced the record, I guess they feel like he had to be on it. And it's really, I'm not a fan of the feature, but you know, it's good. If anything, it's just a little basic, a little generic, which is a problem that occurs a lot throughout this album. It's another about probably 6 out of 10. So the first song that really sticks out to me is The Light Is Coming, which has Nicki Minaj on it, and it's repetitive, and I actually prefer the Nicki Minaj part over the Ariana Grande part, which is never really good if your feature is outshining you. The bridge has this quick singing part that I really like. Again, if you're being outshined by who you have as your feature, it's not great. So it's a solid 7 out of 10 when you look at it as an Ariana Grande song, but if you're looking at it as a song, I would call it an 8 out of 10. But for our purposes, I'm going to call it a 7 out of 10. The next track is REM, which is based off of the Wake Up demo off of Beyonce's 2016 album Lemonade. The percussion is a mix of drums, wood blocks, and just these very breathy ahs in it. The lyrics themselves refer to being in a dream, which is what REM is. It stands for Rapid Eye Movement, which is what makes you dream. It's got this nice doo-wop feel to it, and I like it. I'm comfortable giving it an 8 out of 10. Next track is God Is a Woman, which I feel like this track at some points goes much faster than it should. It's got too high of a tempo. Not even too high of a tempo, it's that her voice has a very quick tempo, but the song has this very relaxed kind of sound to it. But the music has this more of a relaxed sound to it. This track really gets its best near the end of the song. The true enjoyment of this song for me comes from the flourishing background vocals. So that combined with the end of the song that has this gospel choir sound, it's really nice, and I give it an 8 out of 10. The next track is Sweetener, which this album is named after, I suppose. And it's got this solid intro, and then when the song starts, it's got this very repetitive part that I wasn't a fan of to begin with, where she goes like, flip it, flip it, flip it, twist it, twist it. And I wasn't a huge fan of that to begin with, but I mean, honestly, it's really grown on me now, and it kind of feels like a vocalized bass line, and I love it. There are a few excellent vocal clips hidden in this song, and it's beautiful. It's an 8.5 out of 10. And then we swing, like I said, there's a lot of swinging in this album, from great to mediocre, and Successful is another example of that. It's got this weird funky intro I'm not a fan of. I mean, aesthetically, I love it. She's got such a great diva voice, like a 90s diva, this 90s vibe, and aesthetically I love it, but it can kind of fall flat like it does in this song, so I give it a 6 out of 10. The next song on there is Every Time, and while I was doing my review, Lexy let me know that this is her favorite song on the album, so I need to be careful when reviewing this one. It's got solid vocals, it really does, and I feel it's got solid vocals, it really does, but I feel like the song doesn't go anywhere. Like, she does the chorus, and then like it's just this blur of until the next chorus rolls around. But the chorus is great. The ending has a nice fade to it with solid vocals, and it saves the song and bumps it up to like a 7.5 out of 10. The next track is Breathin', which it's got some weird tempos, but it really works. It's got strong percussion, strong instruments, it's upbeat, it's poppy, and so far on this album, Breathin' at this point on the album, if you're listening in order, these are the best vocals you've heard so far. So those great vocals gives Breathin' an 8.5 out of 10. Next, you have No Tears Left to Cry, which even crank those vocals up higher. When the song came out, I loved it. It really stands out as something that would have been something released in the 90s. Like I said, even stronger vocals than Breathin'. It's fun, and it switches between the upbeat chorus and these mysterious sounding verses. 9 out of 10. Borderline is the third song with a feature on this album, which I feel is a little much, and by this point in the album, I started getting a little tired of it. I was kind of like, how many more songs are left on this album, which isn't a good feeling. It's not a good feeling when you're listening to an album. You don't want to be sitting there wondering when the album is done. But this song features Missy Elliott, and it's another example of just this kind of generic, boring sound where Ariana is, again, outshined by her feature. So, again, it's not always great, and it's not even as good of a feature as The Light Is Coming, so it doesn't even score as high. It gets a 6.5 out of 10. Next up is Better Off, which, again, I don't usually like the slow songs on the album where the artist feels like they have to have a slow song on there. If your song is if your album is all rise, like, stick with that. You don't need to just throw in a sad song. But ironically enough, this is such a good song, and while I feel like the album doesn't need this song, Sweetener is better off with Better Off on it. Gets an 8.5 out of 10. The next is Goodnight and Go, which is a type of remix or new take on Imogen Heap's 2005 song Goodnight and Go. The song has great vocals, it has a new spin on a classic song, and just has this beautiful sound to it. The end of the song has this nice, like, almost a cappella sound, and it's easily the strongest song on this album, and I'm gonna give this a 9.5 out of 10. Pete Davidson is a song that's a little longer than a minute. It's an interlude, and I usually like interludes more than I like intro remixes and instrumentals, but interludes still aren't on my list of favorite things to put onto an album. The song doesn't feel important or memorable example, which is a bad thing when you're naming a song after your fiance, like Ariana did in this track. A third of the song is even just the song fading out. So you take that minute and 15-second song, and now it's like a 50-second song, and it's unnecessary. There's no way for me to say how insignificant or better the album would be without this track, without me sounding like I hate love. So I'm just gonna give it a 5 out of 10, and we're gonna go on to the next song, which is Get Well Soon, which is the closer, and it's got this nice R&B feel to it. This song feels like a closer. It's got great vocals, it's got great harmonies, and it feels dreamlike but still bouncy and strong. And it's a song just talking about, you know, depression, anxiety, different mental health things. And I normally wouldn't cover that when talking about the song, but I was a little confused when I first heard the song, because the song is 5 minutes and 22 seconds, but the song itself is only about 4 minutes and 40 seconds, so it's got about 40 seconds of just silence. And I actually had to have Lexy explain this to me, is that the song is 5 minutes and 22 seconds long to represent May 22nd, which back in 2017 is the day that there was a terrorist attack at one of her concerts, and those like 40-ish seconds of silence were to, as well as the song being 5 minutes 22 seconds, were both kind of a you know, tribute to the people who died. Honestly, I feel like that was really cool. I don't want to let that affect my rating of the song, so I'm still gonna give this song a 9 out of 10 though, because it's such a great song. So Sweetener is an album that it switches, like I keep saying, it switches between great and memorable and boring and generic, but it definitely does feel nice to have Ariana Grande start sounding like she's coming into her own. I think that she just needs to work on what she finds important enough to put onto albums. For example, that Pete Davidson song, if it needed to be on the album, it should have sounded more important, because it just does feel like something that was lazily thrown into the album when it doesn't need to be there, especially considering that she's been working on this album for like at least a year and a half, and she's only been with Davidson for not even like 5 months. So it does really feel forced to have songs like that on there. And while I'm not saying don't put songs about your fiance on your albums, just if they're important, make them feel important. So my favorite track on this album is No Tears Left to Cry. My least favorite, with as much talking about Pete Davidson, my least favorite's actually Borderline. It's too generic, and that's the point in the album where I started getting tired, so I'm gonna hold that against this song. The best track is Get Well Soon, because of the sound, because of the instrumentation, and because of everything. Normally I would give this to Good Night and Go, but I think the tribute to those who died is just a little bit, just pushes it over the edge to the best song on the album. And the worst track is Pete Davidson, which, again, sorry Pete Davidson. Overall, this album is gonna get a 7.5 out of 10 from me. It's by no means a bad album, but it's definitely being held back by a few songs that don't need to be on there. It's a perfectly, you know, above average pop album, and I would recommend, if you enjoy pop music, to go out and give this a listen. So this is my review on Sweetener, and I'm happy that, hey, what happened? Why, Lexy, why am I upside down? Hey, I can't get down.